My child, I have been waiting for the right moment to speak this directly to you. Not to a room of people, to you, to the specific person who has been carrying a weight that is different from the weight of financial worry, or professional uncertainty, or the fear of the unknown. This weight is the weight of wanting someone, the specific, tender, persistent ache of having love to give and nowhere to give it fully, of going to sleep beside the space where a person should be and waking up beside the same space, and doing the daily work of living with something in you that has not found its home yet. Some of you have done this quietly. You have kept the longing private because the world does not always treat the longing for a person as something serious. It tells you to be content, to be independent, to build your life first and let love arrive as a bonus. And so you built. You built your life carefully and well. You developed yourself. You invested in your gifts. You showed up fully in every space you were given. And still there is a room inside you that is furnished and waiting and empty. A room that was built for someone specific, that has their name written on the wall in a script only I can read. And every night you pass by that room and feel the vacancy of it in a way that is distinct from every other kind of longing you carry. I want you to know something before we go further. I know that ache. I am not a God who stands at a distance from the interior of what you carry. I am a God who is inside the very weight you wake up beside. And I am speaking to you today because there is something happening around your name in the unseen that you cannot see from where you are standing. And you need to hear about it before you do something that would cost you what is already in motion. Stay where you are. That is the first thing I need to say. Not as a command that dismisses what you are feeling, as a word from the one who knows where the person I prepared for you is right now, what they are navigating to reach you, how close they are to the specific coordinates of your life. Stay where you are, not because nothing is happening, because everything is happening. And what is happening requires you to be exactly where you are. Type "I am still here" in the comments. My beloved, I want to name what you have been carrying in the waiting, because the waiting for a person is not the same as waiting for other things. And I want you to know that I understand the specific texture of what this waiting is. When you wait for a financial breakthrough, the waiting is painful, but it is not personal in the same way. The absence of money does not feel like a statement about your worth at the deepest level. But when you wait for love, the waiting can become a question. The question sounds different for different people. For some of you it has been, what is wrong with me that this has not arrived yet? For others, am I asking for something that is not actually going to happen? And for others, the quietest version of the question, the one you have not said out loud even to yourself. Maybe I am not the kind of person that someone chooses, really chooses, fully chooses. Without leaving eventually, I want to address that question with full clarity before we go any further. The length of your wait is not evidence against you. It is not a verdict on your worth or your lovability or what you deserve. The length of your wait corresponds to the specific person I have been preparing for you and the specific preparation they have been going through to become the person who can love you at the level you were designed to be loved. A person who arrives quickly is not always a person who was prepared thoroughly. And what I have been preparing for you required thorough preparation in them and in you. Because here is what the waiting has been doing in you that you have not always been able to see clearly from the inside. It has been producing in you the specific quality of someone who will not settle for the version of love that looks like love from the outside but operates as something diminishing from the inside. It has been building in you a clarity about what you are actually looking for that cannot be built any other way than by encountering what you are not looking for enough times to know the difference with precision. That clarity is not a luxury. It is a protection. It is the specific interior compass that will recognize the person I have prepared when they arrive. And you needed that compass to be calibrated by the waiting before the arrival, because the arrival itself will require you to know immediately what you are looking at. I want to speak plainly about what that calibration has cost you, because the building of discernment in a person is not painless. Every relationship that did not work was not a waste. Every connection that came close but did not hold was not a failure. Every person who arrived with the appearance of what you needed and then revealed themselves to be something else was doing something specific in you even as the experience cost you. They were teaching your interior the exact shape of what you are not looking for. They were drawing the outline of the counterfeit so precisely that when the authentic arrives, your spirit will know the difference, the way your hand knows, the difference between something warm and something that is merely not cold. There is a specificity to the knowing that the waiting produces that cannot be taught any other way, and the cost of that knowledge, the price paid in closed doors and quiet grief and late nights, holding what did not stay, that cost was not lost. It was invested. The dividend is the precision of your recognition when the person I prepared walks into the coordinates of your life. Type, "I choose to stand" in the comments. Now I want to take you to a moment in Scripture that mirrors exactly where you are right now. A moment of complete and total encirclement, of looking in every direction and seeing no way forward, of the pressure becoming so intense that every reasonable voice in the space was saying, "Move, run, do something, anything," because staying still looks like dying. The people of Israel at the edge of the Red Sea. Behind them was Pharaoh's army, hundreds of chariots, thousands of trained soldiers pursuing with the specific intent to return them to what they had been freed from. In front of them was the sea itself, wide and deep and uncrossable without means they did not have. To the left and the right were mountains. They were completely enclosed. Every human calculation in that moment arrived at the same conclusion. There is no way out. And from that conclusion, panic was the natural response. Run, fight, surrender. Do something that a person does when they recognize an impossible situation. But I said to them through Moses, "Do not be afraid. Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord which he will accomplish for you today." As it is written in Exodus 14:13, "Stand still and see the salvation of the Lord, my child." Notice what that command does not say. It does not say find a solution. It does not say figure out a path. It does not say make something happen before the army arrives. It says stand, be still, and see. The seeing happens after the standing. The salvation manifests as a result of the stillness. And the specific thing I want you to receive about that moment is this. The sea did not part while they ran along the shore looking for a way around it. It did not part while they argued about what to do or who was to blame for the situation. It did not part while they tried to manufacture their own escape with their own effort and their own ingenuity. It parted while they stood. Their standing was not passivity. Their standing was obedience, and their obedience to stand in the middle of what looked like complete impossibility was the specific posture that the miracle required. Right now you are at your own Red Sea. The army behind you is the history of what has not worked, the relationships that did not develop, the people who left, the connections that felt close and then went cold, the promises that were spoken and not kept, all of it pressing at your back and telling you that what is in front of you is the pattern, and the pattern is permanent. The sea in front of you is the gap between where you are and where the person I prepared for you is. And every voice in your interior is saying, you need to move. You need to do something. You need to make this happen because standing still is not a strategy. Standing still is surrender. But beloved, the sea parts while you stand. The miracle arrives while you are still. The person who is navigating toward you needs you to be findable in the specific place I have positioned you. And what makes you findable is not your movement. It is your stillness. Stay. I want you to understand something about the Israelites in that moment that is often overlooked. They did not know the sea was going to part. They had never seen that before. No one in the history of their people had ever seen that before. They were being asked to stand still in the face of an army with no prior evidence that standing still was going to produce anything other than their recapture. They had to choose trust without the benefit of precedent. They had to decide that the word I gave them was more reliable than every visible indicator of what was about to happen to them. And they made that choice. They stood, not because it felt safe, not because the army behind them had stopped advancing, not because the sea showed any sign of moving. They stood because they chose to believe that what I said was more true than what they saw. My child, this is the specific faith I am asking of you right now. Not the faith that says, I will trust God because I can see the path forming. The faith that says, I will stay where I am because God said stay, even though the army is still advancing, and the sea is still not moving, and nothing visible has changed. That is the faith that parts seas. That is the faith that brings what has your name on it to the specific coordinates where you are standing. Type "the sea will part" in the comments. My child, I want to give you a picture of what is happening in the spiritual dimension right now around your situation, because understanding what is actually taking place changes how the waiting feels from the inside. Your spirit is a lighthouse. It stands on the shore of your life, solid and elevated and designed for exactly one purpose: to emit a steady beam of light that guides what is navigating through the dark water toward you. And the person I have prepared for you, the one who is making their way to you right now through the specific chaos and resistance and distance that separates where they are from where you are, that person is navigating by the signal of your spirit. They are not using a map. They are not following a set of directions handed to them at the beginning of their journey. They are following the signal that your spirit emits when you are grounded, when you are settled in faith rather than driven by fear, when you are standing still at your lighthouse rather than pacing the shore trying to bring the ship in by effort and desperation, when you are at peace in the waiting, when you have found the specific quality of trust that says, "I know what I have been promised, and I am choosing to believe it, even when I cannot see the ship." Your lighthouse sends out a clear, consistent, powerful beam. The person navigating toward you can see that beam from a distance. They can chart a course toward it with confidence, because the signal is steady. It says, "There is a stable place here. There is a safe harbor. There is a landing. Come this direction." But when you are restless, when the waiting has pressed against you long enough that peace has thinned into anxiety, when you are reaching and trying to force what has not yet arrived, your light does not go out, but it flickers. It becomes erratic. It moves when it should be still, and the person navigating toward you, who has been tracking the beam through the dark water, suddenly cannot chart a reliable course because the signal is not consistent. They do not sail closer. They wait at a distance for the signal to stabilize, because a flickering lighthouse is not a harbor. It is a hazard. My beloved, I want to tell you what your lighthouse looks like from where the ship is. When you are in your peace, when you have settled into the specific quality of trusting me that does not depend on the arrival of the ship to feel justified, your light is something that cuts across distance in a way that cannot be explained by natural laws alone. It reaches farther than it should. It crosses geography and circumstance and all the things that logically should make you invisible to someone who has not found you yet. The person navigating toward you sometimes stops what they are doing and does not know why. They have a thought about someone they have not met. They feel a pull in a direction that has no map. They find themselves making decisions that seem unrelated, but that are moving them, step by step, toward the coordinates where your light is burning. They do not know what they are following, but they are following it. And the light that draws them is the light that comes from a person who has chosen peace in the waiting, who has chosen to keep the signal steady rather than let the anxiety of wanting dim what the other person is navigating by. My beloved, I am not saying this to shame the restlessness you have felt. The restlessness is understandable. The waiting has been long. But every time you chose to return to peace, every time you brought yourself back from the edge of desperation to the ground of trust, you steadied your light. And a steady light is a findable light. As it is written in Habakkuk 2-3, the vision is yet for an appointed time, but at the end it will speak and it will not lie. Though it tarries, wait for it, because it will surely come. It will not delay past the appointed time. The ship is in the water, my child. The captain has your lighthouse in their sights. Keep the light on, keep it steady. Stay where you are. Type "I feel it" in the comments. My child, I want to pause here for a moment and speak to something specific that is happening in your body right now as you receive this word. Not something frightening, something real. Some of you, as I have been speaking about the ship navigating toward your lighthouse, have felt something quiet happen in your chest. A loosening, a softening, as if something that has been held tight there for a long time is beginning to release its grip. That is not the effect of comfortable words. That is your spirit recognizing the truth of what I am saying. Your interior knows when it is hearing something that corresponds to what is actually happening around its situation. It recognizes the alignment between the word and the reality, and when it does, it releases a specific kind of tension. The tension of someone who has been vigilantly guarding against disappointment, of someone who has hoped before and been disappointed before, and who has therefore learned to hold hope at a careful distance to avoid the cost of losing it again. That tension is releasing right now, not because I am asking you to be careless with hope, because I am giving you reason to hold it fully. The ship is in the water. The captain has the signal. You are allowed to let the tightness in your chest become a warmth. That warmth is the confirmation. That is what it feels like when the word you are receiving is true. My child, I want to speak to something that has been happening in the spirit during the waiting season that you may not have recognized for what it was. In every long waiting season, there is a moment when the counterfeit arrives. Not randomly, not accidentally, with specific timing. The person I prepared for you is navigating toward you, and the one who opposes what I do is aware of that navigation. He cannot stop it. He cannot cancel what I have authorized. But he has a strategy. And the strategy is this: send a counterfeit before the authentic arrives. Present something that looks close enough to what you have been praying for that you reach for it. And in the reaching, in the distraction of pursuing what looks like the answer, you move from your lighthouse. You dim your signal. And when the authentic arrives, you are not at your coordinates. The counterfeit looks specific. It looks like what you asked for. It may have qualities you named in prayer. It may arrive with a feeling of recognition that you mistake for confirmation. It may come through a situation that looks providential, a meeting that seems too timely to be coincidence, an introduction that appears to have been orchestrated, a connection that develops with a momentum that feels like the answer finally arriving. But my child, the feeling of momentum is not the same as the confirmation of the Spirit. The one who opposes what I do is not creative enough to build something entirely new. He studies what you have been praying for and builds a replica that has the right exterior but the wrong interior. That looks like what I promised from the outside but operates by entirely different principles. Once you are inside it, here is how you will know the difference between the counterfeit and the person I prepared. The counterfeit creates urgency. It says, act now or lose the opportunity. It makes you feel that if you do not pursue this person immediately and completely, they will be gone. It introduces a restlessness that sits just beneath the attraction and that you cannot fully silence. Even when things look good on the surface, there is a checking in your spirit that surfaces in the quiet moments and cannot be argued away. The counterfeit asks you to move faster than your spirit is comfortable moving. To give more of yourself than you have confirmed is safe to give. To silence the quiet question that surfaces in the still moments and replace it with the louder voice of the feeling. It asks you, in subtle ways, to compromise something that is important to you, to make exceptions to things you said you would not make exceptions to tell yourself that this time the rule does not apply because this situation is different. When you notice yourself constructing that argument, hear what I am saying. The need to construct an argument to justify the exception is itself the sign that the exception is the wrong answer. The person I prepared for you will arrive differently. They will bring a specific quality of peace with them. Not the peace of someone who asks nothing of you. The peace of someone whose presence does not require you to manage yourself around them. There will be a confirmation in your spirit that is quiet but clear. Not the anxious electricity of the counterfeit. A settling, a recognition. The sense that something that has been searching has found what it was searching for. My beloved, if you are in a situation right now that is producing anxiety, urgency, and a quiet but persistent sense that something does not align with what I told you the person I prepared would feel like, hear what I am saying. That is not the ship. That is a decoy. Do not move your lighthouse to chase a decoy. Stay where you are. The ship is navigating, and a steady light is what brings it home. Type "my light is steady" in the comments. My child, I want to speak for a moment about what the person navigating toward you is experiencing on their side of the water, because you have been so aware of the waiting from your position at the lighthouse that it may not have occurred to you that the journey from their side has its own weight. They are not sitting still in comfort while you stand in the effort of the weight. They are in motion toward you, and the motion has cost them something. They have had their own wrong turns, their own people who seemed like what they were looking for, and turned out to be the preparation rather than the destination. They have had their own quiet nights where the longing felt like more than they knew how to carry. They have arrived at their own Red Sea moments and had to choose, without the benefit of seeing the outcome, to keep going in the direction their spirit was pulling them, even when every visible sign said there was nothing in that direction worth the effort. They have been fighting through resistance to reach you, not because reaching you is a burden, because anything worth reaching requires the crossing of distance. And the distance between where they were and where you are has required them to become someone specific, someone who was shaped by the crossing. Someone who arrives not as the person they were when they started, but as the person the journey made them. And that person, the one the journey made, is the person I designed to find your lighthouse. Pause here for someone who is in the middle of the wait and starting to believe that staying means settling, who is on the edge of reaching for the counterfeit because the waiting has become more than they know how to carry alone. If that person came to mind, send this to them before we continue. They need to hear that the ship is still moving and the lighthouse needs to stay lit. And if this ministry has been the word you needed in this season, sow a seed into it for the one who is still standing at their lighthouse in the dark. Visit the link in the description below, or scan the QR code on your screen. Every seed sown in faith reaches the one who needs this word at the exact moment their light is about to go out. My child, I want to speak now about the people who watched your waiting and made it their evidence. The ones who looked at the length of time the person I prepared has taken to arrive and built a conclusion from it. A conclusion about you, about what you deserve, about what is realistic for someone in your situation to expect. Some of them said it with words, careful words dressed in concern. The gentle suggestion that maybe your standards are too high, that maybe you are being too selective, that maybe at this point you should consider what is available rather than what you asked for. They framed it as wisdom, as practicality, as the advice of someone who has your best interest at heart. But what they were actually offering you was permission to want less than what I promised. And I did not authorize that permission. I was not the one behind that offer. Some of them said it with the specific silence of someone who has privately decided that what you are waiting for is not coming, but who does not want the responsibility of saying it out loud. The way they stopped asking, the way they moved on from the topic as if the topic had been quietly resolved by the passage of time, as if time itself had delivered a verdict. And some of them said it with the way they spoke about relationships in your presence, the casual, resigned language of people who made peace with something less than what you refused to make peace with, and who needed your expectation to match theirs so that their resignation could feel like wisdom rather than surrender. They talked about love the way people talk about things they have stopped believing in but have not quite admitted they stopped believing in, and you sat in the presence of that language and felt the weight of it pressing against what you still held inside you, like something valuable that no one else could see the value of anymore. They used your waiting as evidence. They used the length of the time between where you are and where the person is as proof of their conclusion. And some of those voices found their way inside, not loudly, quietly, in the moments when the waiting was heaviest, in the stillness when the weight of the unlived love was most present. Those voices whispered their conclusions into the space and asked if maybe they were right. My child, those voices were not prophesying. They were projecting. They were describing the limit of what they were able to believe for themselves and calling it realism. The verdict they delivered in those quiet moments was not mine. I delivered no such verdict. What I delivered was a promise. As it is written in Proverbs 18:22, "He who finds a wife finds a good thing and obtains favor from the Lord." The finding is coming, and the people who watched your waiting as evidence against you will watch what the waiting produced. Not the bitterness they expected, not the diminished expectation they assumed the years would produce. The full, specific, unhurried fulfillment of exactly what you believed for. They will see who arrived, and they will not be able to explain it in the terms of what they concluded while they were watching. They will see the ship pull into a harbor they said would always be empty, and that arrival will be its own answer to everything they said in the absence. Not as a victory you announce, as a life you simply live. The fullness of what I promised, experienced quietly and completely, in the presence of what was always on its way. That is a more powerful testimony than anything you could construct with words. It is the testimony of someone whose waiting was vindicated, not by an argument, but by an arrival. Let the arrival speak. It will say everything that needs to be said. I want to be specific with you about what I see when I look at the ones who dismissed what you were believing for. Some of them acted from a place that looked like wisdom, but was actually fear. Fear that if you kept believing for what you described, your disappointment would be greater than they could watch you survive. And so they tried to protect you by shrinking what you were holding. They meant to spare you, but they were working from their own experience of disappointment, not from what I said about you, and what I said about you has not changed based on their experience. It was not their word to give. It was never their authority to revise. What I wrote over your life before you were born is what stands, and what I wrote was not a question. It was a promise. It was a specific, named, appointed encounter between you and someone I had already chosen for you before either of you knew the other would exist. That promise is not vulnerable to the conclusions of people who were afraid to believe alongside you. It stands because I said it, and I do not revise what I have said based on the length of time it takes to arrive. Type "they see who found me" in the comments. My beloved, I want to speak now about what needs to happen in you before the arrival, because the person I prepared for you is navigating toward a specific version of you, not the version that is desperate, not the version that has been worn thin by the wading into a posture of readiness to receive almost anything, because almost anything feels better than nothing. The version of you that is whole before they arrive, that is standing at the lighthouse not because you are guarding against the sea, but because the lighthouse is where you live and the living is full and meaningful, and not dependent on a ship arriving to become worth living. As it is written in John 12:24, unless a grain of wheat falls into the ground and dies, it remains alone and produces nothing. But if it dies, it produces much grain. My child, there is a version of you that needs to be released before the arrival, the version that defines itself by the waiting, the version whose identity is organized around the absence of the person rather than around the fullness of who I made you to be, the version that has quietly decided that the quality of life available to you is contingent on the arrival of someone else. That version needs to die before the arrival. Not because it was wrong for needing, not because the longing was something to be ashamed of, because the person I prepared is not navigating towards someone who needs them to be whole. They are navigating towards someone who already is, and the becoming whole is not a betrayal of the longing. It is the fullest possible expression of what the longing was always pointing toward. The grain that falls into the ground and dies does not disappear. It produces more than it was in its dying. What is released in you by the death of the version that needed rescue is not loss. It is multiplication. It is you becoming the person the arrival requires you to be before the arrival confirms you were always that person. And here is what that dying looks like in practical terms. It looks like choosing today to build something that is not contingent on the arrival, not as a distraction from wanting, as an act of living that is full in its own right. It looks like investing in the room of your life that is not the furnished room waiting for someone specific, filling the other rooms, making the rest of the house a place you love to live in regardless of whether the guest arrives this month or this year. It looks like making plans that have your name on them alone and following through on them, with the same investment you would give them if you knew the person was arriving next week. Because, beloved, the quality of who you become in the waiting is part of what the arrival will find, and what the arrival finds is what the relationship begins with. You do not get to start over when they walk in. You start from where you actually are when they arrive. Make where you are something worth arriving to. Type "the old me is done" in the comments. My beloved, sow a seed right now for the one who is still standing at the edge of releasing the version of themselves that has been defined by the absence, who needs to hear that dying to that version is not giving up on the arrival. It is making room for it. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen. Sow it in faith for the one who is about to let go of what the waiting cost them and step into what the waiting was always building toward. My child, I want to speak now about what the arrival will actually look like, not in terms of what the person will do or say or bring, in terms of how you will know, because I do not want you to miss what I have prepared by looking for it in the form you imagined in the middle of the waiting. The ship does not always look like the ship you drew in your mind during the long nights at the lighthouse. It may arrive from a direction you were not watching. It may look quieter than you expected, less dramatic, less like the rescue you imagined, and more like a recognition. more like coming home to a place you have been before, but in a dimension you could not previously access. There is a quality to the arrival of what was meant for you that is distinct from everything else in that way. It does not announce itself loudly, it settles, it lands, it finds the place that was built for it, and it fits without effort and without adjustment. Not because it is easy in the way that things without depth are easy, because it is right. And rightness does not need explanation, it only needs recognition. You will know it is the person I prepared by the specific quality of the peace that accompanies them. The lighthouse inside you, the one that has been steadily emitting its signal through the years of the waiting, will recognize the ship when it arrives. Not because someone will announce it, because your interior will confirm it with the specific quiet authority of something that has been calibrated over a long time to know exactly what it has been waiting for. The restlessness will stop, not because something external changed, because what was missing arrived. And the settling that happens in the interior of someone who has waited well, that is one of the most specific and unmistakable confirmations I give to a person who has been faithful at their lighthouse. There will be a warmth in your chest that has nothing to do with excitement and everything to do with recognition. Stay open to it. Do not dismiss it because it arrives more quietly than you expected. Quiet is what peace sounds like, and peace is the signature of what I send. I want to speak to what happens after the recognition, because there is a temptation, when what you have waited a long time for finally arrives, to hold it so tightly that you crush what it is, to go from the long waiting into a kind of desperate holding that communicates to the person that your peace is dependent on them staying. And beloved, I need you to understand something about the person I prepared for you. They are not navigating towards someone who needs them to stay. They are navigating towards someone they want to stay with. The difference is not subtle. Someone who needs you to stay communicates to you through every interaction that your presence is a rescue, and no one wants to be the person who is needed as a rescue. People want to be chosen by someone who is whole, by someone who has a life and a joy and a peace that existed before they arrived and will exist if they leave, even though the leaving would bring grief. That is the quality of love that people want to be the object of, not the desperate need of someone who has been waiting so long that the waiting has hollowed them out. The full, wholehearted choice of someone who found life worth living before they found the person, and who now finds the person worth adding to what was already worth living. That is the posture the arrival finds when you have done the work of the waiting well. As it is written in Ecclesiastes 3:11, He has made everything beautiful in its time. The specific beauty of the appointed time is partly in the recognition, in the knowing, in the moment your spirit says, "This is the one I have been keeping the light on for." Stay open to that moment. Do not prescript it. Do not require it to arrive with fanfare or with the specific aesthetic you constructed during the waiting. Let it arrive as it arrives. Let the recognition be what it is. Trust the interior compass I spent the waiting calibrating. It will not mislead you about this. It knows what it has been built to recognize. Type, "I am positioned" in the comments. Before the closing prayer, sow a seed for the one who needs to hear that the lighthouse is about to see the ship, who is standing at their signal in the dark and needs to know that what they are sending out has been received and that what they have been waiting for is navigating toward them right now. Visit the link in the description below or scan the QR code on your screen. Every seed sown at a lighthouse in the dark is an act of faith that the ship is in the water and the captain knows where to find you. My child, let me close with what I most need you to carry from this moment. Stay where you are. Not because the waiting is comfortable, because what I have prepared for you is navigating toward your specific coordinates, the coordinates of someone who chose to keep their light steady when the dark was long, of someone who refused the counterfeit when it arrived with urgency and the appearance of what they had been praying for, of someone who let the version of themselves that needed rescue die before the arrival, so that the version who stands at the lighthouse hole could receive what was always meant for them. The person is in motion. They are not sitting still wondering if you exist. They are moving through the specific resistance of their own journey toward the place where your signal and their navigation arrive at the same coordinates at the same time. They are making choices that seem unrelated to finding you, but that are moving them toward you with every step. They are being prepared even now, and the preparation happening in them corresponds to the preparation happening in you. You are not waiting while they are standing still. You are both becoming, in your separate places, what the other one needs to find when the arrival happens, and when it happens, it will not feel like coincidence. It will feel like exactly what it is, the appointed time. As it is written in Psalm 46:10, "Be still and know that I am God." The knowing comes in the stillness. The arrival comes to the one who stayed. And the specific quality of what arrives after a long and faithful waiting is something that cannot be manufactured by urgency or forced by effort. It is the specific gift that belongs to someone who kept the light on when keeping the light on was the hardest thing they did in a given day. That is you. You kept the light on, and what is navigating toward your signal has your name on it, and has had your name on it since before you arrived in this world. It is closer than the dark suggests. It is closer than the length of the wait implies. Stay, my child, keep the light on. Keep it steady. The one I prepared is making their way to you, and you are the only lighthouse they are looking for. Heavenly Father, the one who prepared this person before either of them knew the other existed, who positioned the lighthouse and set the ship in the water, and knows the exact appointed time when the two signals converge. We come before you now over every chosen one who is standing at their lighthouse in the dark, who has kept the light on through the long waiting, who has refused the counterfeit when it arrived with urgency, who is tired but has not gone out. We receive today the word that the ship is in the water and the captain has the signal. We release the desperate version of ourselves that defined its worth by the arrival, and we step into the wholeness that the lighthouse requires. We release the conclusions others spoke about the length of our waiting and receive, instead, what you have been saying about it, that the appointed time corresponds precisely to the specific person you prepared, and the length of the preparation is the measure of what the preparation produced. We repent of the moments we nearly left our lighthouse to chase what was not the ship. We recommit to the stillness. We choose today to be findable. We choose to let the light burn steadily without our management and without our interference. Keep us at our post. Keep our light burning clearly. Let the signal that we send into the dark be the steady, faithful, unhurried light of someone who knows that what is coming is worth keeping the light on for. In the name of the one who makes everything beautiful in its time and who has never been late to a single appointed moment. Amen. My child, if this word found the place in you that has been carrying the long wait for love, send this to the one person you know who is at their own lighthouse, who needs to hear today that the ship is in the water and the signal they are sending is being followed. Let this word reach them before they put out the light. God bless you, beloved. Stay where you are, keep the light on. The one I prepared is making their way to you.